Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, no guests tonight. Some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
Having my tea. Staying calm.
I've just defaulted to beer for tonight.
Oh, that's good. Well, we are slowing things down, so.
You know, I have a little cooler, and I put a 6-pack of Miller High Life in there, and then I put snow in it.
Oh, well, yeah.
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 So I'm using the snow for some good purpose.
Some good purpose. I was thinking also, you're set up there. There's a window not too far in front of you. You could probably just open your window up.
I thought of that, but the screens, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cold, is what we're saying. It's cold, is what we're saying.
It is cold.
It's cold in New York.
Yeah,
it's cold. We're getting another chill, I think.
Yeah, no, it's going to be like with wind chill -30. I feel like it's symbolic somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like the coldness of the winter is symbolic. You know where else it was chilly? In Milan. Did you see this? Did you see this? I'm going to play it.
Play it.
In an individual sport, what an honor for her.
There is the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and his wife, Usha. Ooh, those are not... those are a lot of boos for him. Whistling, jeering, some applause.
A lot of boos for him.
A lot
Whistling,
of
jeering, some applause.
Some applause.
Yeah. So, I just feel like we have to remember he's awful and everyone in the world knows it. I think that's a good thing to keep.
And let me say this. If you're going to go throughout Italy, because Italy's got some hard right areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do. It's the birthplace of fascism, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Milan, the northern part of Italy is pretty. If it was here, it would be in the United States. It would be, red MAGA.
Yeah.
So that they got that degree of booze, there says something.
Not too sexy for Milan. Not too sexy for Milan. Right. And the other thing, did you see this? Like Trump is suing, is threatened to sue Trevor Noah. You see this?
Oh,
this is because we were off last week, so there's stuff we have to pick up on.
Yeah.
And he was like, he said that I went to Epstein's Island and I was never on Epstein's Island. And he might as well have continued. I only did my rapes in Florida and New York. Like, it's so preposterous that's the thing. It's the little detail that he's going to.
Well, it's the thing. It's the throwaway their stuff. They do that. That's the thing with that whole Trump group.
Yep.
Is they get you hooked on one particular semantic or one particular detail where they can deny and fuck it around it and mesh it and make it all confused and and you're not really looking over here at this. The
PP tape is the big, that's a perfect example.
Like
all the stuff that was in there and all anyone would talk about is this thing that he quickly denied and seemed ridiculous and all that stuff. So, and here we are. Mm-hmm.
Here we are. Oh gosh, excuse me. Trying to stay awake.
You're gonna get animated because this is gonna be a great evening tonight because we have. You're gonna show us in the third topic, in the third segment. You're gonna walk us through the offshore database, Offshore Leaks database, and how you found all this stuff 10 years ago about Epstein and liquid funding and. All of this. It'll be.
It's going to shock everybody how intricate and how much expertise one had to have to find Jeffrey Epstein's offshore accounts. Hold on to your hat.
Hold on to your hat. Oh,
I'm ready to impress.
I don't have the hat, so
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. And then we do have an after hours tonight. We weren't gonna, and then I thought, you know what? I've been asked so many times, what's the deal with Epstein and the jail cell? And how did he do all of that?
Oh yeah. I forgot.
And I haven't really paid much attention to it, but recent revelations in this last tranche mean that we have to go back and pay attention to it. So we don't know anything. We're just talking it through. in the after hours tonight.
We're going to be ridiculous. I think
It's not going to be we're dropping knowledge. It's going to be we're going to walk through it and have fun.
We're going to walk through.
Mhm.
It's, you know, we don't want to sound the way we're going to sound there. Here.
Right. That's why we're saving it for after hours. But you
We're
do
saving
need
it.
you do need to be a member. So we
Premium
like to
content.
we like to do
Premium
premium content for people who lovely people who pay
Yeah.
to, you know, support this show,
It's so
which we appreciate
supportive.
very much. Yeah.
Very
So,
much. Okay.
All right.
Oh God. Let's get into it. I got a text for some Kleenex here. I apologize. I forgot
That's
my
okay.
napkin. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have it on. It keeps defaulting to 15 minutes. So I'm going to 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. First
Okay.
topic.
The first topic is pause. And yeah. So everything's moved so quickly with Trump. And this is the problem. And I wrote about this in 2018, you know, in Dirty Rubles. Like the whole challenge of writing about this guy, writing a book about him is, where do you end it? Because the train keeps rolling, you know,
Right.
it just keeps going. It never stops. The fire hose of shit never turns off.
Right.
And it, like, he invaded Venezuela a month ago and nobody's talking about it.
Oh my God.
Right?
I forgot
That's
about Venezuela.
Right, exactly. We forgot about it because in the grand scheme of things, it's not even that important. And that is nuts. Okay. And you see that word a lot. You see people say nuts and crazy and he's insane.
Yeah.
And because we lack the vocabulary, I think, to really describe what's happening. So I just want to pause.
And I think
for
the other intent of all that is to not just confuse, but we're up in this level of anxiety and
Yes.
distress,
Yeah.
Exhaustion as a result of that. And it's kind of a vicious cycle to get everyone to just sort of tune out. And so, you know, we talked before of like, let's just, with all of this over the last week or so, just need to slow it all down.
Yeah. And really
take in what the fuck is happening.
Yeah. The lay of the land. I mean,
The lay of the land.
when I go back and read my columns from 2-3 years ago, there's
Yeah.
always something that I mention, hoping that will be the bad thing he did. And now I go back and I'm like, he did that and remember that, you know, like that's the level now. But we're at a different point with things. And I just want to, you know, say pause. Like everybody knows by now, everyone's seen the unspeakably disgusting video that he retweeted with the Obamas.
Yes.
Just shockingly racist and hateful and petty and childish and immature, whatever words you want to use. I mean, it's just so unbecoming, but we know this already about him. You know, this isn't a surprise. So we have to respond to it, obviously, because it's so terrible. And it's also maybe one of the things that will get through to the MAGAs that remain on the fence and think this guy's maybe okay. But look around, like the president of the United States of America posted that on his account.
On our behalf.
Yes.
To the world, speaking for us.
That is not normal.
No.
That's not normal. We're in a situation now where he has formed a Gestapo. And again, Gestapo is just the truncation of the German words for secret state police. So ICE is literally a Gestapo. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He has formed the Gestapo. It is kidnapping children. Before we could even get into how horrible it was that they were kidnapping children, which again, is one of Trump's sideline activities, as we know.
Yeah.
And they're going around just shooting people.
Yeah.
Which they've been doing anyway. So
extrajudicial killings.
Yeah, executions in the public square for no reason. You have the attack on the First Amendment and journalism with the arrest of Don Lemon and the other journalists. And I don't know if they're going to, I think they did indict. That's preposterous. That's such a corrupt, that Pam Bondi is just Blanche. Ugh. I hate all of them so much. That's not normal. It's not normal for a country that calls itself free to put journalists in jail, even for a brief period of time like that. We have the Washington Post, owned by one of the richest men on the planet Earth, just cut half of its thing, get rid of the sports page, get rid of this, get rid of that. And it's increasing fealty to Trump to try to appease him in some way. They've taken not only what was one of the best newspapers in the country, but also one of the most courageous ones historically that, broke the Watergate case and published they were in on this stuff. They did things that other papers wouldn't do. That's might as well not exist anymore. You have Washington Post and CBS News now run by Barry Weiss, who literally is less qualified than me to run that thing.
Yeah.
At least I worked at AP for a year and a half, you know what I mean? So whatever she was doing is not that, and ruining it. You have Ellison buying up all this stuff, trying to consolidate all this stuff. Elon Musk, to try to distract from his name being all over the Epstein files, has his ex making like deep fake kitty porn, AI, whatever. None of this is normal. None of that is normal.
The total capture of our fourth estate.
It's not normal. It's as wonderful as it is for us to be here on YouTube and talk, and as wonderful as Substack is, it's nice to have a legacy media that actually means something, and we don't have that anymore. That's done. Again, not normal, not in a free society. Bribes, the bribes. Jimmy Carter had to sell his peanut farm, and this guy is just taking straight out bribes from sheiks in UAE. He's taking planes from Qatar. He's doing his bulk coin stuff. He's inside all of the things that he's doing to profit off the office. The pardons that he's clearly getting paid money for, all the lawsuits that he's leveling
suing us
people.
for $10 billion.
The IRS
suing the American taxpayer for $10 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
None of that.
Tariffs.
Well, I forgot about that. I didn't even write that on my list. None of this is normal. None of it is normal.
Yeah,
he's trying to nationalize the elections.
Oh yeah.
What were you going to say? Go ahead.
I think the normal too is normalizing it. Just even using, this is not. It's beyond not normal. This is an attack.
Yeah.
It's an attack on our democracy.
Yeah.
Our democratic processes of free and fair elections constitutionally run, our Constitution itself, the rule of law, by the destruction that's happening from the Department of Justice, the citizenry. Mm-hmm. We are not land of the free, home of the brave anymore.
No.
They're cowards hiding behind redactions because they rape kids. And by they, I mean Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and everyone else associated with all that.
Yeah.
Per the sworn affidavits, and worse, per the sworn affidavits from people who were not just the survivors or victims who have disappeared or been killed since, but former employees who were there. So
couple more things.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We're building concentration camps. That's actually happening.
Yeah.
And bigger than
not free and brave.
We're killing off people with this vaccine stuff. I mean, all of the medical stuff is horrifying.
Yep.
We have his son-in-law and his real estate buddy off in Russia making deals to do.
The corruption is breathtaking.
Yeah, it's really almost, you almost have to admire it in its way.
Right. There's been nothing in history anywhere close to this corruption. Not the Marcoses, no African dictator, no, not even Putin at this point, because of the wealth that this nation has and the power that this nation has. All of it being wielded and exploited for Jared Kushner.
Yeah.
For Jared Kushner's benefit.
Guy who couldn't get into Harvard until his dad wrote a check for $4 million.
Yeah. His dad's a felon.
Yeah. Dumbass. And we now know, because of the Epstein files, that Epstein and Peter Thiel and all these other people are working with the Russians. I mean, we have the president of Poland saying it's a KGB honey trap.
That's right.
And it's it's Russia, Russia, Russia. This isn't me saying it, isn't you saying it. It's the fucking president of Poland saying it.
That's right.
That's a real person, right? And they're investigating it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be shy about or coy about releasing.
There won't be redactions there.
No.
And
who doesn't like the Russians? Poles.
The Poles. They'll get their hands on everything. There's 10 nations now investigating.
Yeah.
Even the
UK around. They're raiding Peter Mandelson's house as we speak.
Raiding his house as we speak. Yeah. Are they raiding Leon Black's house? I think they're not. No. Should be. No. We'll get to this at the end of how we can come back to who we are. We've lost it's not just our compass. We've lost all sense of self as a nation, in the name of nationalism. Right. Ironically, we have abandoned our identity. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I think that's good. But all of this stuff about, the point is that when we look around and see all this right now, we're 1935 Germany, maybe. I mean, we're Robert Kagan, who wrote the piece in the Washington Post in November of 2023, warning that we were very, very close to fascism. Is now saying basically, wait, I have the exact quote written down somewhere. We're at the edge of the consolidation of dictatorship, he says in an NPR interview this week. So that's where we're at, and this is not a happy place to be. And I just want everybody to, and by everybody, even posterity, to be aware of where we are right now. But all this talk about Thiel and Bannon and these guys leads us to the next topic. Yeah, Little Saint 4chan. I love that subtitle. We got to rewind a little bit. So part of what came out, let me get to the clock. Thank you for that, Greg. That summary of just pause. Understand where we are. Don't let it all, this runaway train. Yeah. Okay. For anybody, by the way, that watching this who is younger than us, which is probably nobody, or the little headings here are buttons on the VCR. Buttons on the, or I was going for a tape cassette. That would work too. I was in music. Okay. So rewinding. One of the things that happened for me, a decade ago when I started pulling on, I was just determined to find the gangsters, the mob boss behind Donald Trump. I knew he was embedded in organized crime, grew up in it, was drenched in it, was his dad doing deals, him doing deals. I knew his specific history. I knew he was in debt to the Russians. I didn't quite understand that being in debt to the Russians meant you were working with the Russian mob at that point for that guy. And that the Russian state had become a mafia state. I was really just like, I knew this guy was laundering money for gangsters. I understood it. I knew that he was owned. And because of my, at that point, sort of a little bit more in depth than the average person, not just Hollywood reason to understand organized crime. I'd researched it and written some stuff. I mean, not just like watching it. I knew the world somewhat. I just knew, I was like, there's a boss. He's not the boss. He's the maid. He's laundering somebody's, whose money is this guy laundering? And so that just sent me on this quest, and part of what we'll get to later. So we're rewinding because it's important to not just take this pause, but to take a step backwards and really assess, now that we have this information that Jeffrey Epstein and this sort of affirmation and all the data that we've got that he really was. He had Russian handlers, he had Russian contacts, all of them connected to the Kremlin. He was in regular communication. He had visas every single year going and traveling back and forth. And he was doing a lot of this with Peter Thiel, who's this, ominous figure in our own for all, all these South African crazies. In looking for knowing all that now about Epstein, also looking for whose money Epstein was really managing because he was so close with Trump. Maybe there was a gangster in there. I'm looking. That's how I got into Bear Stearns and I got into Ace Greenberg and I learned all this stuff. I kept running into these Nazis. I just kept running into these Silicon Valley kind of these meme lords, all this weird shit. And whether it was in Bitcoin wallets of Andrew and the people I was working with and associated with, like, look at what we're finding here. There's this Nazi hacker named Arnheimer Weave. And like, I'm looking at his, I'm like, what is this? The 4chan disgusto-ness, like that was just sort of all over everything. And these characters that were sort of surfacing that were connected with not just the 4chan meme lord, but, had been interns for Alan Dershowitz or part of his weirdness. And he's over here with Epstein and he's jumping up and down for Lev Leviev, who's the Israeli fucking mobster I've got that's funneling money somehow through Donald Trump because I'm trying to find who's the mob boss, right? I just kept 4chan just kept smacking me in the face and smack over here. And oh my God, what is this? And I would post about all of that on Twitter at the time. And I ended up with these great journalists who knew a lot about that world, reaching out to me and saying, hey, I think we're finding the same thing. Like you end up, the names of the individuals involved and the money that you're hunting down, I think that money is behind these people, these Nazis that we're covering and we're following in this sort of alt-right movement that's happening. This was very early years of Trump's first term, of his campaign in his first term. So then I start looking into 4chan and I start realizing, oh God, and I kind of finding stuff in there that's really dark and horrible, and meeting other researchers who were finding hackers and that were connected to Assange and all this other stuff. And it was just this very bizarre rabbit hole to be in of like figuring out. And then we had the Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook stuff and the Robert Mercer, and I'm finding Mercer's money and Nova Fund and all these things mixed up with Simons and mixed up with Murdoch and all being funneled through these yachts, right? In the Offshore Leaks database, it was all, everyone's yachts was their residence and their account was a yacht, and the yachts were all interconnected. And then those were connected to this medallion fund and all these other funds of these oligarchs that we have, these media oligarchs in this country who were connected to Cambridge Analytica. This is all pre-Bob Mueller, right? It was just the bizarro land of bizarro lands to be in as this, as like a mom screenwriter in my, and I had producers reaching out to me who kind of knew what I was, and they're like, we think there's a big story in here. I'm like, I do too, but I don't know what to do with these Nazis. I can't study gangsters and Nazis. There was a point where it was so dark, I couldn't be searching down Nazis and gangsters at the same time. But I knew they were connected. So when the news breaks from this DOJ dump that Jeffrey Epstein was actually one of the people in early years with creator of 4chan, and a guy that was at a time, he's got this weird name, Moot, that's not his real name, whatever, that guy that was setting up this board. He had this board called Poll, right? I'm sure all of our audience knows about this. And that means 4chan's just a site that he set up on obviously on the internet. There's no dark web. We call it the dark web, but you don't have to go try to secretly find this thing and no access. It's just there. It's 4chan. And on 4chan, there's all these different boards, like message boards that people can post anything on. And there's one particular board, Poll for Politics, that we knew Don Jr. was in, right? Because he kept posting, remember those memes he was posting of Hillary Clinton with the Star of David? And he said it's a sheriff star and money, and it was all this anti-Semitic stuff and all this weird stuff. This meme that we were just subjected to recently, yesterday, or this morning, of the Obamas, right? This is all this culture, the culture wars that were cooked up on 4chan in the most disgusting areas where there was nothing that could be politically correct, go for it. And it just ended up being a bunch of Nazis. Well, this guy Moot, back in the day, was like, I don't really want Nazi shit. If it's going to look like Stormfront, I'm going to shut it down. Then he has a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein right around the same time. And we got connections and emails and communications. And suddenly, nope, he's not putting any guardrails on it. And all of our alt-right characters are in there and end up coming out of that thing, right? And that was that sort of movement that utilized the web, memes, social media, Facebook, Cambridge Analytica having the algorithms for creating the alt-right, as we know from the whistleblower there, Christopher Wiley, that ended up being this runway, right, for landing the plane of Donald Trump. Now we know, and we knew Bannon was involved in all of this.
Yeah.
But now we know it was Bannon and Epstein getting their boy elected. Now, Bannon, I want to go a little bit more on this. Bannon in the early 2000s, like 2005 or something, he was in Hong Kong, I think, working with gamer companies and all this kind of stuff. He was trying to get into seeing how he could collect young men together and kind of weaponize them and radicalize them through this. He had like World of Warcraft was the big game at the time. And he was launching a company that would go into the boards, these gaming boards and things like World of Warcraft or that specifically, and look at targeting people, trying to convert online activity into real world activity. So let's see if we can get someone to make a purchase of like, we can make some money off this. Maybe these gamers will buy this thing over here, do this, and it'll improve their game. He was playing around with that world, but really trying to understand the dynamics of this community of online young men and how to really work with them. So I can only imagine he brought that knowledge, and we knew we had that knowledge, and we were looking at Bannon early on, into this, I don't know what to call it other than an active measure, a Russian-backed active measure with Epstein into 4chan, of radicalizing those and mobilizing those, the individuals on there to push the culture in a particular direction and weaponize everything, all of our screens, reach people, work with Facebook, make some conversions out there. It worked. It's stunning that it worked. But it did. It worked.
It could probably work better than they thought,
Yeah. I think just not people you would consider voters, but I think it was less about getting them to vote and more about getting them to shape the discourse in such a way that it could reach people who would vote and sort of scramble reality in such a way, or provoke and stir up racism and nationalism in such a way that folks felt animated to go out and get their racist strongman, vote that guy in.
Yeah.
That certainly seemed, and there was other stuff to gain from getting in and getting people's data, having IP addresses, having hackers at your disposal.
Lots of hackers in this last
in this last tranche.
Yep.
Lots you can do with information on, and it all can be pushed through an algorithm. And again, the Cambridge Analytica whistleblowers attested to that they they used algorithms to radicalize and radicalize voters and animate and change and shape the culture. So to find out that that's the disgusto that was behind it all, it makes it make sense. I know you wanted to ask, we'll go a little long in these segments because we don't have a guest, but we were talking before, you wanted to ask if that was surprising to find out that Jeffrey Epstein was behind all of this or embedded in it and involved in it. And my answer to you is no.
Yeah.
From Gamergate on, the misogyny, right? And I know we'll get into this in our after hours, but everybody, like, this whole thing of, like, he's got a Fortnite account and everything. Don't forget, this guy was into the, or at least Bannon, his buddy Bannon was into the boards, right? Into not necessarily playing games, but playing with that community. It doesn't surprise me. I always assume it's just one or two horrible men just at the bottom of whatever it is, whatever's going on. And I love men. It's not about that. It's just we're a patriarchy, We can have find the most despicable human being to ever come into existence. And as Americans, if we're going to put a woman, the most qualified person to run for president, she's going to lose even against the most despicable human being ever to walk the face of the earth. Not just once, but twice. You don't even have to try. This is a nation that refuses to listen to women.
Yeah, that's one of the takeaways from the episode.
On a pathological level. So that, does it surprise me that an industrial scale child rapist that treated our daughters as a commodity to be traded and disposed of? No. Doesn't surprise me at all. At all.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to go into the next segment, which is going to be super fun.
Okay.
Because you're gonna show us a bunch of things, but before we get there, we just have a little interlude.
It didn't.
Jeffrey said he'd spill the beans on Trump. Now Jeffrey's dead, but in those files, though he's been black inked, Donald's linked forever with Epstein. Money's king. It paid for all the child sex trafficking. Bankers and lawyers looked the other way. They chose to stay forever with Epstein. One of these days, we will find we know all of the facts.
One of these days,
Blackmail and sex, endless flex, near Prince Andrew G. Max. And money talks.
And it's let Trump and all the criminals walk.
But all of them will live in infamy. Their names will be forever with Epstein.
Chunk. Oh.
Shout out, Chunk. Shout out, Chung.
Shout
Shout out
out,
you
Chuck.
for your vocal stylings.
Shout out you for all you do.
I recorded that originally when I was still in Berlin, and it's been in my head for 2 weeks.
It's the worst.
It's
We're
such
so
a-
sorry, everybody. We're gonna go around. I've been
Yeah.
hearing the song nonstop.
and we've ruined it now forever. So apologies to Neil Diamond, who I love.
apologies.
I love me some Neil Diamond.
I know you too.
All right, you know what? I'm going to take the
Okay.
banner off so that we have more space here.
Okay. I
Let's
want
see.
to go. Yeah, and I'm going to go through. We're going to go. Here's what we decided to do again in our sort of. Let's pause, rewind. What is this section? I can't remember. what
Play. This is
Play.
play. We're going to play some
gonna
shell
play.
games.
We're going to play some shell games.
Mhm.
So the other thing that happened with this dump from the DOJ and all the focus back on Epstein and understanding how integral he was for everything, and that inside of Russia is Epstein, which is why Donald calls it a hoax, because he doesn't want anybody knowing that. All of a sudden we've got names. I know that a lot of it's redacted, but there's some more names. And people are doing all this research and all this digging and exactly what we did 10 years ago. I know the energy. I know what it's like to just be into these things where you're obsessed with it and just trying to find answers, and you're so close and it's right there. And you've got, and you did Dirty Rubles. We're doing all this, right? And you're going to get stuff wrong. We got a lot of stuff wrong. It was a big learning curve, and but one of the things that and seeing all these sort of younger people now, maybe because we feel so old and worn out by it, seeing all these younger people kind of get into this and like, I'm researching, I'm looking, and it's all great. And we're happy that you're doing that. And I just wanted to, and any of the older folks who are maybe having second wind or third or fourth or 29th wind and want to keep puzzle piecing and putting things together. I can't do it like I did it 10 years ago. I don't have the time or the space, and my brain would probably break. I mean, I just is so dark. It was just too much. But I do want to encourage all the folks I see that have the energy to take the information and go back into the Offshore Leaks database and keep hunting down the money and the connections. We've got to keep hunting this money. And there's some stuff that did come out that made me go, we might be able to solve one of the things now that I could not solve. And I'll explain that in a little bit. It has to do with the different types of leaks that happened. They were called leaks by the journalists that did them because they were getting anonymous, as far as we understand. They're not going to name their sources, but these anonymous leaked tranches of data within these law firms that were setting up offshores for vast criminal networks, just celebrities, monarchs, world leaders, corrupt world leaders, sanctioned oligarchs, so there's corruption in there, there's illegality in there if we're going to follow international money laws. And a lot of it is just tax avoidance, right? So then there's the moral decrepitude of that, of like this, when you understand how much money has been pushed through offshores for 100 years and how much it's just grown and grown and grown, and especially in the last 25 years, all of that money, if it had been taxed, what kind of life we could all have, even in the wealthiest nations, but certainly around the world, where humanity would be right now, it sort of takes your breath away. So I do feel a responsibility to kind of share what I learned. And because there's a lot of sort of false conclusions and stuff that were made, and I made, and then I knew it, and then I had to. It was just learning that if I can jumpstart you guys or anybody into the world of the Offshore Leaks database of like handling it as just a researcher, of handling it responsibly and knowing how to vet it a little bit much better than I did in the beginning, that I think we can find all this guy's money. I really do. Not just the money that he was making, but the money he was managing. And very specifically, what I'm interested in is the flow of money from the Kremlin through him, the flight capital, and then the return of those funds for the blackmail operations and the compromise operations that he was, and the trafficking that he was involved in. So is that a good setup? Does that make sense?
A good setup. That's a good setup. You
Okay,
want me
great.
to add?
I don't want to, add. I don't want to put the screen up yet. I want to go through the differences of these two things. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, no, I don't want to do that yet.
Okay.
I didn't know what you meant. I thought you were going to add something. Okay. So I want to remind everybody I'm just going to talk about two of the leaks, the Panama Papers leaks and the Paradise Paper leaks. Okay. Both of these tranches of documents were sent to German journalists that were connected to the International Consortium, or what is it? The Institute or International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the ICIJ is the abbreviation. And that is a consortium of investigative journalists across many, many countries, and they work and collaborate together to expose corruption. So in 2015, the Panama Papers were leaked to a German publication that took it to the ICIJ, who then created this Offshore Leaks database, or put it into the Offshore Leaks database. So 11.5 million documents were sorted through and the data was entered. Now, the Panama Papers were specifically the accounts and the data taken from a law firm in Panama called Mossack Fonseca. Okay. And there was reporting then, once the leaks happened and were public, the Guardian's team really led this, and they're really good on covering the Russia beat and the Kremlin beat. And several other publications picked this up, and certainly the ICIJ backed it up, that this law firm in particular, and this money was connected to Vladimir Putin and his oligarchs. So a lot of it was sanctioned money. And so this leak sort of happened. Now, we do not know who leaked this. You have to sort of stop and pause. This is one of those stop and pause moments, and really think about what was happening in the world that made someone take the risk to leak this, to leak Putin's wallet. Why were they doing that? What did they want us to know by doing this? Okay. Again, it was 2015 that the leak happened. So I just want to look at that nexus of Trump, Putin, Epstein, and sort of remind everybody what was happening in 2015. Okay. For Jeffrey Epstein, he was in the middle of a bunch of civil lawsuits and depositions because of Virginia Giuffre, and that were filed against Ghislaine. Okay, so this was leading up to his rearrest, which was coming. All right, he had White House contact into the Obama administration to get like a tour for his friends, which I don't know that happened or not. I'm not sure, but he was even trying to get into, before Trump was in, he was getting to that. He was talking with Michael Wolff and discussing how to craft an answer for a potential CNN interview about Donald Trump, who he had this big long history with. We know also now that he had this sex offender status, and he was trying to, wash that all clean online and get his networking circles back. And he was just doing weird things. And he had was dealing with Prince Andrew, and the sort of working out his media defense against the scandal with Prince Andrew. And the Guardian was reporting at that. Also in 2015, his little back book was published by Gawker. Okay. So the issue with Jeffrey that I had up to this point, up until this week, actually, was I couldn't find him in the Panama Papers, and which is the leak that happened first. So I was in kind of answering, why was somebody leaking Putin? What were they trying to expose? What was about? Seemed to be specific to Putin and Trump, because Trump, obviously, what was going on with Trump was that he was running for president, okay, and getting ready for his run, and then he announced his run. So it's like, was it someone in the United States that leaked this? Was it someone in our intelligence apparatus? Was it someone in the Five Eyes? Was it someone in Germany, since it went to German publication? Who was it that felt like they had to expose Putin's money, and that there was an urgency and a thing of like, get this out there to these journalists and let them figure it out, and they'll put it out there. And, you know, it was 11.5 million documents. So it was a big thing. Wasn't little. Okay. All right. And Putin, what was he doing? Well, he was grappling with the sanctions that got leveled against him in 2014 because of Crimea.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been something happening in that world, right? It could have been the bad guys themselves trying. I don't know, but I had, you know, it kind of rattles my brain, but I want everyone to always have that. Okay. The Paradise Papers is another leak. The Paradise Papers is where we found Epstein. Now, the Paradise Papers happened a year later, that leak, and it was specific to another law firm named Applebee's, and it's really got a lot of people. Like the Queen of England was in it. It was a much bigger net of individuals that worked with Applebee, that Applebee worked with to create their offshore tax havens. But we found criminals in there. Okay. So it's two different law firms, two separate leaks, and we, up until now, only finding Epstein in one of them. Okay. So let's go now. Let's share. I want to go ahead and show everybody.
Okay.
If you want to hit the share. Is it working? You tell me, because I can't.
No, it's working. It's
okay,
good.
great. So this is the Offshore Leaks database. You just go to offshoreleaks.icij.org. And this is, I'm going to show you guys how to do this. All right. So you'll come down here and it'll say search, and you just put in whatever you want to search. So I'll show you. I tried this with the Panama Papers leaks. I did not find his name. Then all of a sudden, added to the Offshore Leaks database is the Applebee, the Paradise Paper leaks. Well, let's just see. Is Epstein in there? I search.
I'm going to guess yes.
Okay. Well, I got a lot. We've got a lot of names in here. So this is, I'm going to show you how to use this now. The Offshore Leaks database typically reverts to entities when you begin. Well, Epstein would have been an officer or an intermediary, a person, an individual, not an entity. So let's click on officers. Oh. And we look down here and, oh my goodness, there he is. That's how breakthrough it was. I don't know even how to explain what it was like to find this. It was like, I think I was on the ceiling. And they peeled me off. And I was like, I found his money. I found his money. Well, I found his offshore account. And other people, I think, had been doing this simultaneously. Other researchers even that I was working with. It's just that easy. Now, this is how we found out what his firm, this is his own personal offshore. This is his money.
Liquid funding.
So he called it liquid funding.
Yeah.
Here's the address. So you can see there's a key down here. You guys, once you work with this, you'll learn category. It shows you the keys. Officer is in this color, this sort of orangey color. This is an entity. Liquid funding is an entity. And that looks like a building. And then this is the address. So you can search through addresses. There's shared addresses. There's shared entities. We'll get into that in a second. I'm going to go ahead and click on liquid funding. And then you can scroll down below and it will show you, we're still on Jeffrey Epstein. That's our node. So it's telling you he's the director or chairman. It tells you the years. Oh, look, 2007. He had to leave probably because he was in prison. He set it up in the jurisdiction of Bermuda, not the Virgin Islands. It doesn't, you can set it up in whatever jurisdiction you want. The address is just sort of where it's located. The address needs to be an offshore or any address, but the jurisdiction needs to be an offshore. And then it's in the Paradise Papers, as we said, showing you those dates. So let's go to liquid funding and see who the hell is in here with Jeffrey Epstein. Again, he set this up. It's his company, his offshore account. Look at that. Okay. When you see something like this in the Offshore Leaks database, you've kind of hit a jackpot. All right. So they look like these wagon wheels, and these, you can pull them all apart. We've got different addresses. This becomes, some people like to visually look at maps and stuff like that, but you can just come down here and everything that was up there is down here in these active links. So there's Jeffrey. There's all these other people in here. We've got PricewaterhouseCoopers. Just as a reminder to everybody, they've got it all. If they're on here, they're copied on all of his money. Why these people haven't been subpoenaed, I don't know what the hell. Deloitte and Touche is in there. These are people who are all connected into this, into Jeffrey Epstein's accounts. We see that Appleby set it up, okay? And we've got a couple of different addresses, one in Ireland, which is also can operate as an island in itself, as an offshore, and Bermuda. Okay, and then you can see these people kind of going in and out. I don't remember what I was clicking on earlier with you. I think it was this guy here. We can click in here. Who is this guy? He became director and chairman in 2006, right? All right, this guy. Oh, look, he's got his own node connected to liquid funding, no other companies. So he's very specific to Jeffrey's operation. And here he is, got an address in Houston, Texas. That's got a lot of, see that number 45? That means there's 45 things connected to that address. So what's at that address? Come down, click on the address, and you can look, holy shit. All right, look at all these things. Let's look at the list. We come down here and, oh, look at what we've got. We've got Diamond Holdings. We've got Maple Leaf. I don't know what the hell that is. A whole bunch of other people's names. And then we've got this Neighbors Corporate Services. This thing, I looked at this thing. If I remember correctly, I think it's a drilling company, energy, oil, all that kind of shit. So,
you know, on the topic of Houston and Jeffrey Epstein,
yeah,
that is where he went with Pamela Hale when he was still working at Bear Stearns and met the sons of Doug Lease. And
well, there we go.
You know, that jump started that whole thing where he went to London, and so it could very well be at this guy's house. Who knows? Who
knows? Okay. Well, speaking of names that we now have, that's an old name we had. I don't know if I ever looked for, I think I looked for Nicholas Lease. I think I did find the Leases in this. I don't want to do that tonight. I'm just trying to show you guys how to do it.
We'll be here all night.
We'll be here all night. This is very addictive, which is another reason I don't want to do this so much anymore. I have to spend my time on things that just don't, I'm just hunting down Jeffrey Epstein's money. Okay. Or Donald Trump's. So give me a name. There's some names that came out there. What did we have? We had a woman in Germany.
Oh,
very
yeah.
impressive woman. What's her name? Junkerman?
Nicole Junkerman. Yeah.
So these are some of the names that came out with the connected to Epstein with the latest DOJ dump. Here she is. Ah, what a surprise. And here we go. So this is one of his associates, and this was the thing that made me go, aha. This is the first time I've been able to find an associate of Jeffrey Epstein's deep in with his money that's also in the Panama Papers, which we know is Putin's wallet. Just sort of take that in for a second. Now, she's got 2 entries in here. She's got one. I think she's got an associate in China, this woman in Beijing. She's got a Monaco address. It's there. And then this entity, she's a shareholder of United in Sports Parallel Group, set up in the jurisdiction of British Virgin Islands, Panama Papers. Okay. What are the things we can, how do we think about this now? So I've been thinking about this all day. I think it's very highly likely that although he didn't put his name on anything, Jeffrey Epstein was working with or through Mossack Fonseca prior to putting everything through Applebee's. He was somehow in there. I just can't get around that his associates are in there and he wouldn't have been aware of how to do this. This guy, this is what he did, by the way, for Bear Stearns. When Bear Stearns was like, fired him, go away, they didn't. They sent him to do offshore shit. He worked with Einbender, who was the Alvin, who was Ace Greenberg's partner that helped start that. He's the one that gave Ace Greenberg the nickname Ace. And he worked with Jeffrey Whitten, worked with the offshore group. He ran the offshore group as well. So I can't just look at this British Virgin Islands, this jurisdiction and the Panama Papers and this woman and these dates and not believe that Jeffrey wasn't fluid in what was happening with Mossack Fonseca as well. I just don't think I know what name he used or what entity name he was working under, but I bet we can find him if we just keep digging. So let's keep digging, everybody. All right, let's go back and look at her other. I think I clicked on that one. We come into this. Again, the Monaco address, and we go into Copeland. This is a very impressive woman, as you said. There's nothing wrong with Copeland Securities, except for that they're in the Panama Papers. But again, these people have legitimate businesses. I'm not trying to disparage them. I'm just trying to find Epstein.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. We should make that clear that not everybody that's in this is guilty of anything.
No.
In fact, the lion's share of people who are in these leaks are guilty of nothing, I would say. So.
Yeah, correct. It is not. You can launder money, and it's not illegal. It's heartbreaking to think of it, but and certainly tax havens aren't illegal. We're just moving forward with what the journalists have to say about these law firms, and that they're, for Applebee's, it was just that there wasn't any. It's not like the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act was some kind of concern for them. They would take a gangster's money, they would take a whatever money. They were just, they're just what Stewart.
They were right.
Stewart calls beyond law, right? They were just beyond the law. And Mossack Fonseca, I think, is a little bit more problematic because it was enough reporting that it was very directly, very much this money was connected with Putin. I don't know that Nicole's was. I just know that she was working with Jeffrey Epstein, and we now know that he was working with Putin. This woman, Sandrine, has an address in Beijing. So I think that's notable. I don't know what other to do with it other than just, flag that. Yeah, just clock it. So again, in the 10 years ago, I would have made a big leap about all this. Now, just clock it, keep digging, keep cross-referencing all of this stuff. Okay? We can go back. Am I back on screen?
Oh, you want to remove? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was great. Thank you for showing us.
Hey?
I didn't even know you could move those things around.
You can move those things around. I like moving them around. Oh, we didn't go into Mortimer Zuckerman, or no, Zuckerman?
Yeah, Mark Zuckerman.
Mortimer
B. Zuckerman.
Mortimer B. Zuckerman. That was another name, real estate developer that came out, and
big publisher and former boyfriend of Gloria Steinem.
Yeah,
big New York kind of guy.
Media, big New York guy, real estate, media, the whole thing. One of Jeffrey's guys. I found Mr. Mortimer as well, so I'll let everybody else search that down. There was some stuff we found that was interesting in there.
Yeah.
So, don't forget, don't forget about the money. I'm not saying you're going to find it all. I'm not saying that the Offshore Leaks database is the be all end all of where all the money can be, but it certainly is a trail. And it's a searchable database. You can learn from it. Yeah.
If we find the money, do we get to keep it?
I don't know.
That's how he made some of his money. He would track down money.
That's what he said.
Yeah. Must have been
Yeah.
easy for him to do because he was the one that hit it in the first place.
He's the one that hit it in the first place. Oh,
Yeah.
Paul Manafort isn't like, there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot you can do with having names and going into that database.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Manafort's in there for sure.
He
Okay.
is.
That's
All right.
it.
Moving on.
That's it. Moving on.
Good job. That was good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I passed my knowledge on. All right. Oh God. Stop.
I want to go home, take off this uniform and leave the show. Sorry, Pink Floyd. Okay. I'm getting to the point now where I'm very frustrated and infuriated and angry, but mostly just frustrated at the opposition party, so-called. Because as discussed at the beginning of the show, all of these horrible things are happening. You know the scene in Modern Times, the Chaplin movie, where he's like roller skating backwards in a circle that's getting bigger and bigger, and he doesn't realize that there's a thing where he's going to fall into?
Yes.
Yeah. He's
and
skating around, and everyone's like, because he's really doing it. It's not like CGI. Like he's really doing this.
Yeah.
And even though you know he doesn't fall in real life, you're still worried about it.
Yes.
That's us. We're just skating backwards towards this hole of fascism.
Oh,
and we're getting closer and closer and closer. And eventually we're going to fall. We're going to topple if things go the way that they go.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Robert Kagan at the beginning, who did an interview with NPR saying that, we're at the edge of consolidation of dictatorship, by which I think he means, federalizing the voting, which I know it's illegal to do that. But guess what? Trump doesn't fucking care about the law, and the Supreme Court's going to let it. So all this,
he knows
you can't. It's illegal, but like every time I read, like, well, a federal judge ruled that ICE can't. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. They're just going to fucking ignore it. What difference does it make? I'm glad that they ruled that way, but they will not listen. So we're at that point now, and it's just going to accelerate from here until somebody pushes back on this guy. And I proposed my Liz Cheney plan a while ago, which I think a lot of people liked, and it's a little bit complicated. But the reality of the situation is, if we want to get rid of this guy, if we really want to do it, we could do it in an hour, in a day. He'd be gone, legally, constitutionally, all of it. This is not complicated stuff. And this is the thing that burns me, because this has been here the whole freaking time. Donald Trump is ineligible to be president because he presided over an insurrection. And Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says, in no uncertain terms, that someone who does that, who leads the insurrection, is not eligible to hold any office in the United States unless they're given permission to do so by 2/3 of the vote of both the House and the Senate. Both. You must get 2/3 of both chambers in order to get permission to hold office. Trump did not do that. That never even came up. Now, the Democrats should have been running on this the whole time. And this isn't my idea. I read about it from Caitlin Bird. Gotham Girl Blue wrote a great post about it last November, back when there was still time to do something. And of course, nobody did anything. But it was around even before then. Whoever was running, whether it was Biden initially, should have just made that the whole thing. If Biden had just come out and said, I'm not debating this guy, he's ineligible to be president, read the 14th Amendment, and just turned and walked away, and all of the Democrats just talked about this ad nauseum, we might not be in this mess right now. But not a single one of them did. Not a single one of them. I had to read this on Bluesky well after the fact.
God.
The thing that burns me is that if Chuck Schumer, because the Democrats still held the Senate in November of 2024. 24? Yeah. If Chuck Schumer...
25.
No, 24. Before he wins the election in 24, but he's not president yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
We still have the Senate. If Chuck Schumer
God.
put it to a vote and said, this is what we have to do. This is an amnesty bill that asks for permission for Donald Trump to be president because he did the insurrection and needs this permission. We'll call it an amnesty bill. And if Donald Trump didn't get 2/3 of the vote, which he wouldn't have gotten, he wouldn't be president, just legally. I mean, now the flip side is at that point in time, Trump had time to complain about it. Obviously, Roberts and Alito and Epstein files guy would probably have ruled in his favor. Sammy Fonda Flags, these people are horrible. But now we're in a position where nothing is going to change here unless we need to take some risks and put some stuff on the line and bring the moment to a crisis. We're not there yet. There's no crisis. And we want the crisis to not be a violent one.
Mm-hmm.
So let me play out the scenario for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's his nose? The AI guy, Mike Johnson. By the way, speaking of hackers, hack the man's Grindr account for fuck's sake. Do the nation a service. We know he has one. His son probably monitors it. Let's just find out what we know about this guy, this buffoon.
Oh, God.
Anyway, he's one vote now, and he's out as House Speaker, right?
Oh.
All it takes is to put this bill on the floor in one of the houses. They put the Epstein bill on the floor, and nobody wanted it there. So there's ways to do this. Jamie Raskin can figure out how to do this. There's some parliamentary way. Once it's on the floor of the House and it's voted on, Donald Trump will not get 2/3 of the vote. And once he doesn't get 2/3 of the vote, once he fails in one of the chambers, as I understand the 13th Amendment, he ain't president anymore. He's not. Now, practically he is, because he's in the White House and he will scream and yell. But we, the people, are the Congress. That's us. Congress is the first thing mentioned in the Constitution. Then the executive, then the judicial. It's the number one thing for a reason, because that's us. It represents us collectively. So if we, the people, say this guy ain't, it, he can argue and say that wasn't an insurrection. I didn't da 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 da. If the military decides that this buffoon is no longer the president, they'll go Maduro him. They will, because he ain't supposed to be there. And as I wrote a couple weeks ago, if we know one thing about Donald Trump, we know what his position is about squatters in properties. Get him out, he would say. Don't be nice. Be rough, he would say. But the military could say, we agree with what Congress just did, and therefore we're not going to listen to you anymore. Therefore, it's done. This is what you want to be an emperor? This is what happened in ancient Rome. The Praetorian Guard one day decided, fuck this guy, and that was the end of it. And we're not going to do what they did in ancient Rome. We're just going to lead him out of the White House and put him on a plane to go to Mar-a-Lago. But he ain't going to be president anymore. And I have in my things elegant plans about who should be the da-da. It doesn't matter at this point. Just do this first and figure it out later. Schumer, I mean, the affordability and I really, every day that goes by, I think they're just controlled opposition and they're in on it. I really do. I can't.
I understand why you think that. Yeah,
try something. You dumb motherfuckers, try something before they start rounding people up, which they're already doing, but it's going to increase. They're building these huge concentration camps.
Yeah,
they are. And everyone's all like, oh, the midterms, da, 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 da. If there are midterms, which he will do everything in his power to prevent, are they going to be fair? He's going to do everything in his power to prevent that. Because they know, Steve Bannon was right about this. If the Democrats take over in the way that we should, if the vote is fair, they're all going to jail. They're all going to jail. So they will do anything and everything to prevent that from happening. And Chuck Schumer's just like, well, if we raise enough money for no one's going to vote for Trump, you fucking dumbass. We don't need a big rollout of what did the person win in Texas? What did they win? 85% of the vote in red Texas? He ain't winning shit legally in this election. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And they know it. So we're just going to sit on our hands and wait for this. Why?
Well, if we have to sit, if that's all they have, at least I appreciate everything you just said. I think also the call should be, if you are just going to wait for the midterms because you think we're going to have them and you think they're going to be, you really believe they're going to be free and fair, then he will. It'll be a sweep out of these Republicans. That's clear. And so, what's the plan then? Do you have a plan then?
Yeah.
Be ready. Be ready to win.
Brent Tannehill wrote about this in Byline Times. They're going to prevent them from getting seated. There's going to be stuff that they're going to do because they're going to be desperate. As soon as we have the House, we're going to impeach him. Like day one. I said this last time, I know, but this time I can't say for sure. I thought they were going to impeach him last time, and they suck. So they'll probably just forget about it. But I don't think it's going to get that far, and I don't think it's worth the risk, frankly. What is the downside of doing this? What's the downside? What? That they might do it to us when we're the... Are you high? You're not going to ever be president. We're not going to have another Democratic president in my lifetime if we don't get rid of this guy. Now. That's the reality. And by the way, all of this fuckery in the elections that we're seeing now, Tulsi Gabbard down in Georgia doing all the things, that's not about the midterms. That's about the 2028 election. That's about the presidential election. And I think it's about Vance, because I don't know if Trump's going to be around for that. I think actuarial table suggests, bruise on hand suggests, this guy's not long for the, that's a lot. 3 years is a long time.
Mother Nature's doing her job.
And then they're going to have to run Vance. And, I don't know. I don't know what to say about Vance, but, I don't know.
Why not?
About this guy, but he's not very popular. He's not popular. And he's not going to win anything. If Vance actually runs and there's an actual election, that will be the biggest trouncing in the history of the Republic. That's Herbert Hoover will rise from the grave and say, "Thank God, I'm not here to be humiliated anymore." It'll be a thing. He's just going to get his ass handed to him, and they know this, and they need to perpetuate. One thing we've learned from the Epstein files is that there really actually is a secret cabal of people that run the world, just like all the crazy people have been saying. Right? We can say whatever word is it, but what is it other than that? How else to describe it other than that? When you have Epstein and Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Peter Thiel and Ehud Barak and the Prime Minister of Norway and the somebody from Australia and this woman from Germany who's an investor, all of these people, all communicating with him, all around, making decisions about elections in this country, and technologies used to fuck with stuff. What is it but that? And if you really believe in this, if you're a guy that you've been thinking that there's a secret cabal this whole time, this is what it looks like. This is what it would look like. So I don't know. I forget what my point was with this thing, but this particular arc of it, the cabal wants to sustain. That's the point. Yeah. And to sustain, they need Vance, or they need Chuck Schumer,
or somebody. They need. The big point is, they can't. I mean, he seems to be pickled, Donald. I can't believe something's happening with the hand, and something's going on to keep him with that fast food diet somehow, not clotting out and stroking out. But to presume they're gonna Chuck Grassley this guy? Is he gonna get to 90,000 years old and still be in office? I think you're onto something there with the Tulsi Gabbard of the concern is when he goes, that everybody's exposed then. So it's not just what comes first. He's out of office first, or he goes. Let's say he stays in office, but then eventually, I don't know. Are we going to Castro this thing? Are we Cuba now? What's happening? I kind of want to, let's transition. Let's do some announcements if we have it, and then we'll transition to our next piece, because
I like
the only thing they're not plotting and planning for in their Keystone Cop way, but sinister, right? It seems to be the only thing they can't conceive, and don't have working in their wheelhouse, is us. And so I want to end talking about us.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What are your announcements? Any?
I have no announcements.
I don't think well, we have our after
Mhm.
after hours, and that'll be sweet teas. You need to be a member. So there's a subscribe. Everybody subscribe, hit the like, share. We are so grateful for your support. We need your support to keep going. It is a lot, even though we just do one show a week. We have our Wednesday show. I want everyone to make sure you check out Nadine and Lisa. They're so fantastic on the
They're
5, 8 and a half.
wonderful.
Same channel on Wednesdays. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We learned so much from them. And you need to join. So, someone just gave 10 gifts. That is so great. I can't see who it is.
People give the gifts. You know, it's nice.
I
people
love
give
that you guys give the gifts. So there's join so that we can be in the conversation. We're going to go ahead and put our tinfoil hats on. I wish I had a tinfoil hat. I should have made one for our after hours and just sort of run with it a little bit, because there's all this crazy stuff going, but some of it we can't avoid talking about. We just don't want to talk about it here. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it there behind our curtains. All right. That's what I have to say. Anything else? You're good.
I think I'm good. Again, it's just the only thing stopping this from happening, what I just described, is will.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's just will.
Yeah. So how do we find the will?
Everyone watching this has the will. It's not us.
Everyone watching this has
the leaders
the will.
need to find the will somehow.
Well, they have to answer to us, and we need to remind them of that. So I just want to talk about something, because it's the night of the Olympics, it's opening ceremony. You guys are here. I appreciate that. I live in this little Olympic village, as you know now. And so my friends actually were going and training, the teams and stuff. And so I can't wait to get back to the Olympics. I love it so much and watch. And I'm so pleased everybody booed JD Vance. Thank God. And our athletes are making excuses for themselves there. They're like, I heard one athlete saying, I am here representing my country, but I don't represent everything that's happening in my country right now. And I was like, oh God, that was like that young person had to feel like they had to make that clarity, that clarification, just to show up and bring their excellence, So I want to share with everybody, if you haven't seen the new documentary, I think it's on Netflix, called Miracle, The Boys of 1980. I want to encourage everybody to watch that. You'll see this sweet little place. And I know that there's been a movie with Kurt Russell, and you hear about the miracle and of the 1980 Olympics. Or maybe folks are like, what is that? We don't remember.
Miracle on Ice.
The Miracle on Ice. And what it was this a group of 20 young men, amateur college hockey players, the majority of them from two teams, although they came from all over the country, but the BU team and the Minnesota team were the two best teams in the country at the time. And so the best players were on these teams as well. And so there was half the team was from one of those two schools, and they had a bit of rivalry. And so you go back to that moment of time and learn about each and every one of them and their coach and what they went through to be able to beat the Soviet Union, and who had by far the best players in the world, professional hockey players, but also just monsters on the ice, like just dominated. Mm-hmm. This is like, I don't know, basketball was like that. US basketball, it's a whole other league. You don't have any. No,
they're also they're professional players in Russia.
They're professional players because the Soviet Union is like everybody plays for the state. We don't have professional, but they were professional players. Because at that time in the Olympics, you couldn't have played a professional sport and be on an Olympic team.
It was David and Goliath, really.
Beyond. Yeah, beyond. And what happened on that during the Olympics in Lake Placid that year, there was one little element I wanted to talk about tonight, and I didn't realize this. And then watching it, then I realized I did know this. I just never realized I knew it. But the chant, USA, USA, that chant had never happened before. That team in Lake Placid playing against the Russians, and the build up to where they got to the Russians. They played the Soviet Union. They played the Soviets in the semifinal, and then ended up playing I think Finland or something in the final. But and it came, that chant started to give these boys this sort of the whole will and heart of because they were winning the hearts of everybody. They were such underdogs. I mean, it was just like, yeah, maybe they'll come in 12th, or 8th, maybe. And everyone was focused on Eric Heiden, who was the big speed skaters. There were stars, American stars at these, but not the hockey team. And the hockey team just captured everybody's hearts. And they just played. This coach got them to this place where they just played like from another planet. These young men, these beautiful young men. And the documentary takes you back with them now. The surviving members of the team come back and remember, and you learn all about them and their families. And it was their parents who started that chant. Oh my God, it'll just make you cry. And they take you into the moment of the country at that point, because it was, we had this horrible recession. Remember the gas lines of the 70s? I mean, This is old stuff, guys, from my childhood, right? So, but it was a very depressed time. It was. And America wasn't like, it was pre-Ronald Reagan and the whole, we're the shining city. It was just before all of that. It was just sort of like
the malaise.
It was like womp, womp, it was just like, oh, can't we catch a break? And there was like I think it was the 3 Mile Island thing had happened, and all this, like, it was like everywhere you looked, there was catastrophe or this or the inflation. And it was just like, what is going on? And it was hard. And these young men all came from these, what they had in common is they all kind of had this blue collar, rough and tumble upbringing. And so they ended up bonding and becoming a team because they realized, regardless of whatever their makeup was, ethnically, or part of the team that they came from, the part of the country, they had this real shared experience, and it really bonded them. And then they just had that voice, and they were just for the rest of the country. And there's their parents going, USA, and everybody started going, USA, USA. And I remember that so specifically as a kid, that chant, and like it's just lifted up the nation, but it lifted us up in the kind of nationalism that was about, oh my God, this is who we are. We're the underdog. We're the ragtag young kids, right? America, we're just this young nation, and yeah, it's tough and but we're gonna put our effort in, and we're gonna get there, and we're gonna win this game against these people that I mean, they would applaud when the Russians came out on the ice, because like, or the Soviets, it was like, oh my God, there they are. There wasn't like, yes, there was. It's sort of like, okay, they're clearly kind of their way of life and our way of life, and this sort of villain and that, but also mad respect, right? Mad respect. These guys are really good at what they do. So it was a sense of pride connected to our identity that bonded Americans together around a real simple idea of just USA, yay, that we could cheer for ourselves and our nation and be proud of who we are and where we came from and what we can accomplish when we work together. We can come up against this thing, and it was all about sharing that with the rest of the world. Instead of isolating ourselves from a sense of this, we're going to have a sense of nationalism where we isolate and we otherize and we're better than you. It wasn't we're better than you. It was hey, look at what we can do when we work hard, and we kind of like, oh my God, look at our young men, look at this. And I love that it was this group of young men that just were like such boys. I mean, you got to see this and just remember these press conferences that they did, and they would show up like, hammered, like 3 beers in, and like saying a bunch of bullshit, but just joyful, right? And then exhausted and just like, oh God, and hurt, and playing why really hurt, and like finding the energy to go ahead and triumph. And I just came away from that, and I was like, why can't we can get back there? Like, we can get back there. Look, 10 other nations. I know you've got your plan of how we can constitutionally get rid of this guy. 10 other nations, including Turkey, France, United Kingdom, Australia, Poland. Okay? They're investigating Jeffrey Epstein and the ties to their leaders in business, finance, right? This guy didn't leave one of our pillars untouched and untainted. He went into academia, went into science. He went into Silicon Valley, the sort of the future of science and data. He went into philanthropy. He went into politics, and he corrupted all, and media, and he corrupted it all, right? So he didn't just do it here. It was global.
Mm-hmm.
And those nations are already getting rid of people.
Yep.
But they're going to prosecute, and they're going to have their hands on everything that's redacted, and it's going to come out in their courts. And that's why Donald Trump is sending memes
Yes.
of Michelle Obama and Barack Obama that are disgusting and racist, because maybe we'll all talk about him being a racist and forget about the fact that he's a fucking sex trafficker who raped kids with Jeffrey Epstein. Right? And there's evidence of it. And he spent that in the FBI. There's even people from in the FBI on recordings going, well, yeah, we were told to redact his name. We even have evidence in the redactants that they specifically went and redacted his name. And it wasn't even, there's mistakes. Don T. Right? So we've got it. Now those nations have got to have it too. And they're going to be real public about it. And their press is going to publish this. And we can still rise up and show the world how to handle this. There's no reason, even though we're the underdogs in it right now, because we're so beaten down, because the moves were made on us by the same fucking Soviets. Yep. Russia moved on us. Yes, they made moves on Western democracies everywhere, with China likely standing behind them, right? Yeah. But we were the prime target. Brexit wasn't just for the sake of only the United Kingdom. That was a test. Does it work? Is it going to work? Great. Fucking run it on the United States. We have been in the sights. We're the center target. And the full force of what the bad guys, and these are bad guys. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it in the dark. They were doing it in the dark with Jeffrey Epstein, of all people, and others, Steve Bannon, others. We're just seeing it now. Even though you and I were seeing it 10 years ago, we even are like, oh, now we're really seeing it, right? And other people are waking up to it. And people are talking about this, and they're understanding things like, okay, QAnon and Pizzagate was like an offensive bullshit thing, to where it was coming from Jeffrey Epstein himself and Steve Bannon. They were cooking this whole thing up so that when they ever got exposed, right, we would sound like the crazy people. Yep. And it would keep people from talking about it. I can't tell you how many people I've seen online, on social media, and heard even on legacy media, that penny dropping for them. That's a big deal to get that. That's a sophisticated intelligence weapon, right? That's a technique of propaganda that has been long cooked up out of a foreign intelligence agency that's one of the most formidable ones that's ever existed. And everyday American citizens are seeing the tactic now and going, oh, I get this. I get how this game is. Oh, this is a thing. This is a trick, right? So we've got a shot. I'm not in doom and gloom tonight. We've got a shot. We can still rise up and show the rest of the world that we're the one in the semifinals against these motherfuckers, and they brought out every monster on us. And we can still stand up and take care of this. We can have truth and reconciliation. We can. We can have trials. We can have investigations. We can lead the world. We might not be the first people to start doing this, but we can certainly rise to the occasion as a nation. And it might take 10 or 15 years, but we can show everybody how you actually clean out the fucking rot.
Yeah.
We're Americans. We've got the wherewithal. We've got the resources. We've got the will. We just need the coaches. They've abandoned us. So I don't know where they are out there. We need some leadership. Where we start to see it, where you start to see it, I start to see it, everybody starts to see it. We need to get behind those leaders who are clearly articulating, this is how we take care of this corruption. This is how we take care of this massive war that was waged on us, on our families, on our minds, on our economy, on science, on our bodies with this RFK bullshit, the vaccines, on our politics, on our democracy, on our democratic processes,
On our children.
on our children. Our daughters are not Putin's fucking property to rape and traffic. How about that? How about we start there? We start with what we allow them to do to our daughters. So, and we remind everyone that those girls that are now women that survive this are our daughters. We clean out this rot. We make real amends for the concentration camps. We find out what is going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we help these people that we've been terrorizing. We can do this. We can. The leaders need to figure it out. Get your words together. Get your shit together.
Yeah.
You're Americans too. Are you? Chuck Schumer?
I
Hakeem
guess.
Jeffries? Are you?
I guess.
Maybe they need a reminder of who they are.
Maybe they do.
We can reclaim our, we don't have to slink away in shame. Just have to face the music. And if we do that, Greg Olear.
Oh, no, not yet. Not yet. Because two things.
All right, two things.
First of all, people are asking, the link is just on the regular YouTube page.
Okay.
Okay. For the after hours. You can join and then join. So we'll see you there probably in about 10 minutes at quarter of. I think we'll do it at 9:45.
Sure.
And what I was going to say, just to put a bow on what you were saying so well, I didn't want to interrupt. In 1972 in the Olympics, United States played Russia, and the Russians won because the referees were basically in the bag for the Soviets.
Wow.
And so they won the medal because they cheated. And 8 years later, we kicked their fucking ass. So that's all I'm saying. It's around the same time frame.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not going to take a miracle for us to.
It's not going to take a miracle for us to rise up, meet the challenge, own this, own our issues,
Mm-hmm.
right? And ask to be supported once again, because we'll offer our support.
Yeah.
Clean up our fucking house.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll get through it.